It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the ECU women's head basketball coach, Coach Kim McNeill. How are you doing today?
Hey, Brandon, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in college coaching?
Yeah, well, basketball has always been a part of my life. I think I started when I was about 5 or 6 years old. I'm the baby of 2 older brothers, so they beat up on me, and we'd always have a backyard full of their friends playing, and so it's always been very dear and near to my heart. I guess it was around my junior year of college, when we're trying to, as students, trying to figure out what we're going to do with the rest of our lives because, our athletic careers or our college careers are about to come to an end. And I was just having a conversation with my coach, and he was like, have you ever thought about coaching? You great leadership skills, great basketball IQ, very competitive. And at that time, I really hadn't. But it was my junior year at the University of Richmond. That summer, I started coaching the AAU. So I coached the AAU my junior year, and I coached it my senior year. And it was really the only other thing that gave me that passion that I had out on the court. And so that's kind of where it got started, coaching, some AAU teams in Richmond. And then immediately after I graduated, my eligibility was over. I got my first assistant coaching job at James Madison University.
What was it like, obviously, playing for Richmond, and what were some of your accomplishments during your time?
Yeah, so I loved Richmond. I mean, it's a beautiful school. I got a great education. It's in Virginia, and I'm a Virginia girl, so my family was still able to, be able to come and watch me play. I was a captain my senior year, which I, take a lot of pride in that, in those leadership roles. And then also my senior year, I was first team all defensive in the CAA, because at that time, University of Richmond athletically was in the Colonial Conference.
Of course, coming out of college, what was it like getting the job with JMU as assistant coach?
Yeah, so you're looking at 20 some plus years ago. So things were very different. When I first started coaching, only 2 assistant coaches were considered full-time. The third assistant was part-time. We could not recruit off campus. So all I could do was like be involved with on-campus visits and helping getting visits done, but I was not allowed to go out and recruit. So that was really, really different. And then after my first year, the NCAA changed the rules. And then my second year that third assistant was considered full-time and was able to actually go off campus and recruit.
What was it like going to Harvard as the assistant coach?
To Howard?
Yes, Howard.
Yeah, Howard. It was good. I actually played for the head coach at the time was my associate head coach at the University of Richmond my senior year, and we were really close. She was one of those coaches. She's actually kind of who I kind of go by as a coach. For me as a player, she was somebody I could go in her office and maybe I had one question. She was my guard coach. I'd go in there and ask her one question about something in practice. And I would end up being in there for over an hour. And half the time it wasn't even talking about basketball. It was just talking about life, just her really getting to know me. And so, when I would go out and practice, like I'd want to play hard for her because I knew she really cared about me. I knew she invested a lot of time in me. And so that's kind of who I model myself, after as who I am as a coach, as far as being, as people like to say, that players coach. My players know that I care about them tremendously off the court. So being able to actually go and work for her was huge as well, because then I really got, to learn some of the things as far as what being a coach is like.
What was it like going to the SEC and coaching in Georgia as the assistant coach?
Oh yeah, working for Hall of Famer Andy Landers. who's a legend. I think that's where, probably 4 years into my coaching career, I realized that I wanted to be a head coach, but I don't think it was till I worked for him for 4 years that I really understood how to be a head coach. I didn't realize he was training me. Like, we had those conversations throughout my interviewing process, because before I went to work for him, I was at the University of Cal Berkeley. And so during the interviewing process on talking to him on whether or not I was going to go to Georgia, he asked me what my goals were, and I told him, ultimately I want to be a head coach. And so he was really training me, on how to be a head coach. I learned very quickly that you don't walk into his office with a problem unless you have a solution. So I didn't realize at the time he was training me, to think like a head coach. You got to have solutions. When you're the head coach, you got to figure out a lot of different problems. I don't think people even realize that being a head coach is so much more than just about practice and game time. Like, it's so much about managing your staff, managing your team. There's so many things that we have to be involved in. So he was really training me on how to be a head coach.
What was your time like going to the ACC and coaching in Virginia and going back to your hometown state?
Yeah, that was the main thing. You just said it, Brandon. Going back to the state of Virginia and, being an assistant coach at, the University of Virginia, which is, in my mind, the number one school in the state of Virginia. So that was huge for me. I had a lot of pride. I have a lot of pride in where I'm from. I have a lot of pride in the state of Virginia, and to be able to be there and work for 5 years was unbelievable. And I loved every minute of it. So it was a great experience, being at the number 2 public institution academically at the time. I had been at Cal Berkeley, which was, goes back from being number 1 to number 2. So, it was a great experience for me, and it was very prideful to walk around and have Virginia written on my chest.
Of course, being from Virginia, what was it like also being the associate head coach during your time there?
Yeah, it was unique. My head coach at the time was going through, Joanne Boyle was going through an adoption process with a young lady in Africa. And so I really got to do a lot of things that maybe your normal associate head coach doesn't get to do. It was very time consuming for her. It was extremely important for her. And as a staff, we wanted her to know that we had her back, whenever she had to leave. And so, right before the adoption, I would say halfway went through, she left and had to go to Africa, like on the spot of a dime, and for like a month. And so we thought she was only going to be gone for a couple of weeks, and ended up being longer than that. So I actually got to coach 3 games. So I guess I can say I'm 3-0 at the University of Virginia in games and coaching games.
What was that feeling like of obviously getting that chance to obviously show not just Virginia, your hometown and your home state, but to show the world that you now have what it takes to be a head coach?
Yeah, I mean, I knew I had it. I had done pretty much everything there was to do, except for call a timeout. And so to get that opportunity, Brandon, I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you I was extremely nervous at first. Standing up there the whole time versus sitting, as you do as an assistant coach is very, very different. You got to make, some decisions quickly, and you got to make some tough decisions. And so, that first game was really nerve-wracking for me. But after that, getting that first game underneath my belt, it was very easy. It was fun. It was very fun to kind of play chess match between, matchups with the other coach and our substitutions and, what plays we're going to run the score, what mismatches and stuff we had. So, those 3 games definitely matured me very quickly, as an assistant coach.
What was your time like obviously coaching in the ACC and SEC?
It was great. I mean, it's competitive day in and day out. It's a level of athleticism, it's a skill set, being able to, go against some of the best teams in the country on a day in and day out basis is just, it's just a great experience. It definitely helped me, be prepared to sit in this seat that I'm sitting in right now. And so, being from Virginia, and Virginia is really ACC country, it was good. It was really good.
What was it like obviously going to your alma mater and getting to be the assistant coach?
Yeah, I'll always bleed red and blue. I owe a lot to University of Richmond. I got a free education from there, and some really good years of my life. So, it's always great when you're invested in something. I just talked about University of Virginia and really being prideful about my state. So, being able to go back to the University of Richmond, where I got my education, where I got the opportunity to play, I was extremely excited. Didn't think I would only be there for, 1 year, when my head coach got the call the next year, to go out to Cal Berkeley. So would have definitely have liked to have stayed a little bit longer, but, we did some great things while we were there. We got ranked in the top 25. We made it to the NCAA tournament. So, I think that staff goes down as, putting some things in the record books.
What was it like coaching at Harford as the associate head coach?
So at Harford, I was the head coach. That was my first head coaching job. And it was good. It was a different, when you go from, being SEC, ACC, and then you go to, I would say more of a lower D1 level, there are some adjustments. My eyes had to change as far as the talent level, that I was recruiting. So that was an adjustment to go from recruiting, top 50, top 75 kids in the country, sometimes even top 10, top 5. It's different, so, it was a huge adjustment. I would tell my staff, I like this kid, I like that kid. And they're like, oh, coach, they're too good for us. And I'm like, what do you mean they're too good? Because I was just so used to recruiting, some of the best players in the country. But, we have a system and we have a style that we play. And that's the way I've coached, from my first days at Harford. And so, to be able to go out and recruit players that really fit our system, that love defense, that love to get out and run and play with a lot of energy and just are kind of blue collar players, that's my philosophy and that's the style of play that we play.
What was it like in 2019 to take over and obviously become the head coach of ECU Pirates?
At first it was bittersweet. We had 3 really, really good years at the University of Harford. And my last year there, winning 23 games was pretty special. So that was very hard to go in that locker room and tell those young women, that I would no longer be their head coach. And I felt bad. I was sad for a while. And then, after I came down here and I met the new team, still the young ladies at Harford, it was still hard to know that I wasn't going to go back to them and see them every single day. And to be honest with you, I still talk to a lot of them at least once a month. But once I got here and got settled in and, got to know the players and, being on campus here at ECU, which is beautiful. The weather is awesome. The support from the community is great. It was an easy adjustment. And I really, really enjoyed my time here, being the head coach here at ECU.
Of course, coming to ECU, what was it like also bringing your husband to become this associate head coach with you?
Yeah, so we were actually together at Virginia as assistants. So that's kind of where it started, for 5 years. And it's funny because, we dated 3 years apart. I was at the University of Georgia and he was the assistant coach at Georgetown University. So that was a long distance relationship. So we dated for 2 years. And then after 2 years, we got engaged. And then that's when we went to the University of Virginia. I went first, and then he came probably a month or so after Joanne hired him then. And it's funny because we started, I think, working together probably mid-May, early June. And then we got married in August. And so people thought that we had just started dating for a couple of months and got married. And I'm like, no, that's definitely not the case. We had been dating 3 years prior. We're engaged before we started working on the same staff together. But, he's my right-hand man. He is a basketball junkie. He loves basketball at all levels. He watches it at all times. He's constantly, doing things to better himself as a coach, and to do things that can help our team be successful. So, I lean on him a lot. And, it's hard for us to separate basketball, but we have a set of twins that are 8 now. And so they help us do that because they keep us busy, once we leave here and go home. But it's been good because we truly, our motto here at ECU is family. That's who we are. That's what we stand by. And we truly are a family.
Of course, as you talked about, hard to balance. What is it like to obviously, with both of y'all working in the same school and on the same staff, what is it like obviously going home and being like, okay, ECU Pirates basketball, no more. Now it's family time.
Yeah, Brendan, it's tough. especially before the twins came, when we were at Virginia together as assistants, like we couldn't do it. Like we would, go out to dinner and we were talking about, because we both work with the guards. We would talk about, we need to do this with that kid or that with that kid, or we need to do this or do that. And I really think, not that I think, I know once the twins were born, they really helped us, balance our life, because now once we leave here, it's all about them. And I don't, my goal in life is to never allow my kids to think that they're second fiddle to what I do, which is, coaching women's basketball. So they're a huge part of what we do. I mean, they're around all the time. They come to practice, they travel with us on weekends to games. They're part of team functions. They tailgate, they go to football games, we go to baseball games, so, they spend a lot of time around our players and around what we do. So it's kind of all one, it's not separated. But when we do go home, they're up in the age now to where, my son's, he's loving baseball. So we're traveling with him with baseball. My daughter's now in soccer and softball. So once we leave here at 5:30, 6 o'clock, it's all about them. It's all about them and spending time with them and letting them know that mommy and daddy is there for them.
What are some of your accomplishments so far with the ECU basketball program?
The thing I pride myself on the most is what we've done academically here. When I first got here, the team was under 3.0. And in my 3 years, well, going on my 3 years, this is my third season here at ECU, we are right at a 3.4 GPA team-wise. Last year, all 7 of my returnees returned with over a 3.0 GPA. So I am extremely prideful of that and extremely proud of the work that these young ladies put in and day out in the classroom. I would say the second thing is just who they are and what they represent. We talk about life after basketball all the time. So how do we carry ourselves? How do we prepare, for the real world? And I'm just so proud of just how they carry themselves, how they articulate, how they can carry on the conversation. We are truly developing young women here at ECU. Yeah, we're competitive and we want to win games. We want to win championships, and we will do that here. But we also want to develop young women and get them ready for the real world. So those are 2 of the most things that, I'm really proud of what we've been able to do as a staff here. The third thing is that, we've gotten better. It may not show up in the win-loss column, but as a team, we've gotten better. Our chemistry is so much better. Every year we've been ranked nationally in defensive categories, steals per games, turnover margin, so we get after it defensively. So I'm extremely proud that we're able to stay in those rankings nationally when it comes to those defensive stats.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you have helped build and create for the women's basketball program at ECU?
Yeah, it's family first. It's family first. That's what we talk about all the time. And it starts from the top. It starts from me and my staff, and we're extremely close. Like they truly are a family to me. Like last night, my mom and my mother-in-law come in town once the season start to help us out with the twins, me and Corey. And so my mom's birthday was on Monday. So yesterday we take her to one of her favorite restaurants and we celebrate her birthday, and my whole staff is there. And so it's family. Like it's a place, I love coming to work every day. I love being around them. We joke, we laugh, we go to lunch, we go to dinner. Last Friday, we went to Outback and had dinner together. We do that several times a month. And so my team sees that, they see how close we are. And so that trickles down to them as far as the chemistry go and how they feel about each other. And, we talk about family all the time. We talk about having each other's backs all the time. And they know that this staff cares about them more than just about basketball. And so when we get on the court, they want to work hard for us. They want to do well. They want to do things to make us happy because they know we truly care about them.
What's it like playing in Minges Coliseum?
Yeah, Minges is great. That's one of my goals this year, Brandon, is to get more support, as far as people in the stands. Obviously, last year there was COVID, so there were no people allowed in the stands except for family members. I think this year, as you've seen with football, the attendance has gone up, I think, because people have missed sports and people have missed being, in Minges. And so I'm looking forward to that. So I'm hoping this year we can get more people in the stands. I want Minges to be a place where opponents hate to come and play. because the fans are so rowdy and so loud, and they gives us that 6-man advantage. So we're working on that, getting out in the community, letting people know who we are, meeting our players, meeting myself, so that they'll come out and support.
What is a typical game day like, and who are some of the teams that you play?
Ooh, game day. For me or for the team?
Overall.
Okay, so for me, I kind of lounge a little bit. I'll go work out, get a workout in. That's kind of how I relieve some stress. And then I'll just relax a little bit. I wash my hair, do things that are kind of, I kind of treat myself, pamper myself a little bit. Then we'll come in and we'll do shoot around for about an hour, just review the game plan, get up some shots, eat lunch, get a good meal. And then I'll go home again and kind of play with the kids a little bit. And then I'll come back. For the girls, it's business as usual. If they got class, they go to class, come in, like I said, do shoot around, get prepared for the game, eat. They probably go back to their apartments or dorms and kind of just get a quick nap or so. And then they come back and get ready for the game. And then as far as opponents this year, we're staying pretty regional. Besides our home opener, we're returning a game back to Middle Tennessee. So we open up with them on November the 9th. And then we play teams like Wake Forest, Gardner-Webb, High Point, North Carolina A&T. So we, that's non-conference. So we're kind of keeping it regional this year as far as non-conference games go.
Of course, what is the recruitment process like for prospective student athletes looking to play women's basketball?
I think for every coach and every program is different. It's all about, the coach's standards and what they're looking for. For me, I want young women that want to be successful and want to work for it. I was raised that, nothing's given, you got to earn it. And I'm not a coach that's going to give it to you. You got to earn it. And so, we say we're blue collar, we are blue collar, we work for everything we get. That's why I put so much emphasis on defense, because I think defense is so much about in your control, whether or not you want to play hard, whether or not you want to rebound, dive on the floor, take charges, that's all in your control. So I want kids that first and foremost will play hard and have a motor and want to play defense. Kids that can get up and down the floor, kids that take academics seriously, that want to be successful in the classroom. That's not saying that every kid I recruit is a straight A student or a 3.5 plus, but I have to know that it means something to them, that they want to do well. And if they struggle in something, we can get them help by tutors and things of that nature. But I just want kids that, have a sense of pride about themselves.
Of course, for prospective student athletes that are females, what is the recruitment process like on official visits? Obviously, getting to see the Greenville and the campus.
Yeah, so we make that 48 hours. We try to show them as much as possible. Normally Fridays is more so academics, meetings, with different people on campus, along with spending time with the players, watching workouts. And then Saturday's the fun day, probably a football game. We talk more basketball, probably watch a workout, take pictures. But it's 48 hours filled of as much stuff as we can possible, just so they can make a good, valid decision on where they go, because it's not only about the coaching staff and the team, it's about the surroundings and about the environment that they're going to be in.
Of course, as a head coach, what is it like to see those recruits, obviously, when they take pictures in the, let's say, the purple ECU jersey, and see, oh, it's ECU Greenville where I feel home at?
Yeah, it's it's a fun weekend, but it's also a stressful weekend, because any little thing that goes wrong could steer a kid, in a different direction. And sometimes those things are out of your control, things that, you can't control. But it is definitely, good weekends to be around the families and, just see, give them your best shot, showing them your facilities, and just being, for us as a staff, it's about being who we are. We always tell recruits, what you see is what you get. Like, I'm not going to come here and try to paint you this perfect picture that everything is perfect at ECU or in Greenville, because nothing's perfect. Life's not perfect. And so we're just who we are. We have a good time, we laugh, and when you see those kids put on that purple and gold and put on that ECU uniform, and the biggest thing is just looking at their parents and seeing that smile on their face and that pride on the parents' face, that they know their child is going to go to college and get a free scholarship.
What advice would you give prospective student athletes that are in high school looking to play college women's basketball?
Yeah, first and foremost, I'd say make sure your grades are in check. Make sure you're working hard in the classroom. I know for me as a coach, I look at those type of things. I would say secondly, just have a great work ethic. You know, always, working on your craft, no matter what, if it's basketball, volleyball, softball, soccer, whatever it is. If you want to be really good, it's not going to be handed to you. You got to go out and earn it, and you got to have a work ethic that's better than the person next to you. Just a drive and a competitiveness that, you're going to compete to the end, and you're going to have fun doing it.
What advice would you give those college women basketball players that are looking to go from playing to obviously coaching, how you did?
It's now they actually have a lot more opportunities. Back when I was coming out of college 20 some years ago, you didn't really hear about grad assistants. You didn't really hear about, directors of recruiting or DOVOs or things of that nature. So there's a lot of different ways that they can get into coaching versus, when I was coming out of college, 20 some odd years ago. But I would say, obviously if they are already playing on a team, just really connecting and having a good relationship with their head coach there. That's where I would start with, because a lot of time head coaches want to keep their players on their staff because those players know them and they know their expectations. I would say network as much as possible, going to the women's Final Four, making connections with coaches within, the league that they're playing, because they're going to see them at least, 7, 8, or 9 times, throughout their college career. So making connections with those college coaches, that are within their conference that they're playing on a yearly basis as well.
What advice would you give future and current head coaches looking to play and coach in women's basketball?
Yeah. So, as assistant coaches, I would just give them the advice of be the best assistant coach you can possibly be. Always be 2 and 3 steps ahead of their head coach, really be the head coach of whatever you're responsible for and try to soak up as much stuff as possible. Try to have as many responsibilities as possible. Don't be pigeonholed. Don't put yourself in this box and say, I can only do X, Y, and Z, because as a head coach, you got to be able to do it all. So the more experience you can get as an assistant coach, the better.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the women's basketball program at?
I own all Twitter handles on Twitter and Instagram. I'm ECU Coach Kim. And then our women's basketball pages are ECU WBB. Please come out and follow us. Keep up with us. Andrew, my director of creative content, is amazing with the things that he puts out there to sell our program and to keep our followers up to date with what's going on with our players.
Thank you again, Coach Kim McNeill, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as you still are the head women's basketball coach for ECU.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you so much for being on here. Let me be on. It's been great.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Kim, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.